Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends of ESPON, all of you who are interested in territorial research, territorial development and territorial policies. My name is Wiktor Szydarowski. I'm the director of ESPON EGTC, and I'm privileged to lead the implementation of the ESPON program. The ESPON program is dedicated to provide the latest data, the latest evidence, the latest facts that inform the policies, so that the policies respond better to the expectations of the people on the ground and also reflect in a proper way the territorial trends, the territorial challenges, but also threats and risks. And we are here today on this bright sunny day to debate challenges at the northeast external borders of the EU. Once upon a time, we received a request from stakeholders who were expressing their interest in knowing how to reinvent themselves, how to prepare their territories for the challenges, the shocks, the crises related to the new geopolitical situation after the war in Ukraine erupted. And they asked us, would you as ESPON be available? Would you be interested? And would you be competent enough also to support us in our pathway to the reorientated future? And I do hope that the event today will prove that we managed to cope with the challenge and that we provided you with very interesting research findings. This event is going to be dedicated to the discussion on, well, the context of the development of the border regions, but also to the economic and social consequences of the crisis that has been developing as we speak. And, well, the purpose also is to involve the audience that we are hosting predominantly online in discussing the findings and the policy implications. So we have the possibility for the audience to engage through the Slido. You can either get access to Slido via the QR code that is available on the screen as we speak. But also you could go to the Slido website and then use the code ESPON in order to get through and ask questions to the panelists. Through the day, we are going to debate the different aspects of developments. And in this first session that I'm privileged to moderate, we'll be presenting key territorial findings and the adaptability for policies in the collaborating border regions and beyond. With me, I have very distinguished panelists today. Let us start with Sandra Spule, who is with Spatial Foresight. And Sandra has been the lead of consultancy consortium that help us develop and deliver very interesting territorial evidence. Sandra is a seasoned policy advisor with more than 25 years of experience. And you've been evaluating tools for cohesion, territorial cooperation, and also business support policies along the EU's eastern border. And of course, you also come from that specific part of the world and Europe. So we have a lot of trust in your competence. Then we have also Kirsi Vaino, who is the development director, the Regional Council of South Karelia. And Kirsi, you are responsible for regional development, land use planning, also cultural well-being in South Karelia. And we know these less perceptive aspects of development are at least equally important for the people that live in that area, how they understand, how they perceive the risks, but also opportunities related with the developments. Anna Jaudzema is head of development planning. She was head of development planning for one of Latvia's larger municipalities, and you have extensive experience in attracting EU funding and promoting business environments. You have also huge practical experience because of your own company. And currently you work on the matters related to Latgale special development zones and regional development within the Latgale planning region. Last but not least, Meelis Kuusk, the CEO of the Association of Local Authorities of Ida-Viru County in Estonia. And your work is emphasizing the need for strengthened regional cooperation. Also, you work a lot with regional strategies, attracting investments. Joint Transition Fund has been one, very important example of your, achievements. And, you also, I think, deal a lot with how to keep the young population in the area, how then to attract and create opportunities for youth. So I do believe we're a very interesting mix of experiences, both practical, but also more administrative and more related with policymaking. Let me start this session by asking you, Sandra, for your key taking points from the research that you have been leading through quite a number of months altogether. And I do hope we'll hear about very intriguing and insightful results. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Victor. Good afternoon, everyone present in the audience here and everyone also online. It is my pleasure to briefly introduce everyone on our first findings, almost also finalized findings of the research. And let me first start also with a brief introductory of our research team, which was a consortium consisting of Spatial Foresight, a Luxembourgish-based consultancy company, for which I also led this project for. And University of East Finland, from Finland, of course, Nordeval, a private company from Finland, which specializes in evaluations, especially cross-border cooperation programs, and the French-owned Riga-based consultancy company Safej Baltia. Let's get exactly now directly to our stakeholders of this research, and I'd like to highlight what evidence have we found in terms of what the regions have experienced as a result of Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine, as a result of closed borders, as a result of closed cross-border cooperation programs that they enjoyed for many years on the east-west borders with Russia and with Belarus. I'd like to start with a point that we were collecting evidence for the regions and what has changed in the regions, taking as a baseline year 2014. I hope everyone remembers that this was a year when Russia annexed the Crimea Peninsula. So this was the year when the first sanctions actually were imposed. And this was a year where when these sanctions started to be felt at least at some of the involved regions. Getting then to our stakeholder regions. So first we had as a lead stakeholder South Karelia, Hiva Peiva. What we've noticed about the region, and I'm here very, very brief, we have many hundreds of pages of more analysis, is that probably if we can compare, so South Karelia out of our four stakeholder regions has suffered the most due to the effects of the war, also simply because a lot of its economy was partly based on tourist flows, on flows of goods, raw materials, etc. And certainly all of this had to be closed and reduced due to sanctions and simply due to the closed borders. Further going south, we have Ida-Virumaa, Terepäiväst, Also, a region that undergoes kind of double-sided difficulties, not only because of the closed borders, but also there was a long-planned oil shale phase-out, and as a result, just transition funds have been forwarded and directed to this region, but this is giving some very early investments in green energy, industrial upgrades, and we can see a slight boost of productivity, but this is still a lot fragile and probably is not sufficient to totally replace the lost opportunities. And especially I would also like to note the port of Sillamäe, which also in the region and had for decades built its infrastructure to work as a transit port for a lot of goods, a lot of raw materials coming from Russia. Labadina, Latgale, our Latvian stakeholder region, it is one of the, let's say, most underperforming regions already historically in Latvia, with its particular charm, but the loss of population and low GDP is relevant there. Although there has been, let's say, relevant support to Latgale, there are already some signs of recovery, some signs of household income increase and productivity increase in wood processing and machinery, but this is also a very, very early stages, and certainly the closed borders give another kind of fallback for the region. And as a fourth region, we had Utena. We had actually 4 municipalities from Lithuania, local municipalities, which also undergo structural challenges, but their proximity to fast-growing Vilnius region to some extent mitigates the disadvantages because it's quite easy to commute to Vilnius, etc., and there is a notable spillover effect in these regions. I'd like to touch upon also the lost cross-border cooperation programs, which I mentioned already. We see that a significant amount of almost 200 million euros has been removed from the regions, from the programs that they highly evaluated, appreciated, and they felt a high ownership for these programs because they allowed not only to cooperate, but also allowed to think of some middle-scale, medium-scale investments in infrastructure, and that we can see from figures that the stakeholders have used these opportunities a lot. And it's not only that the funding is lost, also the networks are lost, and now new networks need to be built, and these definitely take time. To wrap up quickly on the findings and moving into policy implications, we see that EU Eastern border regions are high now on the new EU Commission agenda, and our research also supports that the EU external borders need to be treated specifically, and we are proposing to considering them along the whole line from Norway down to Poland, as we also scrutinized slightly the situation with other regions, and there I can show the next visual. These regions could be considered as a functional transnational cooperation area because there are many peculiarities that they share with other backward and periphery regions in EU. Among these is aging and depopulation that you also can see on a slide. So the border areas are getting quickly depopulated. So there are some functions that these regions now undertake. So they basically shield Europe from the consequences of the war. And we consider that it is about the time to think of a tailored build program for these regions. I will just show one more visual where you can see that over the last decade, since 2014, it's only a few regions, like the capital region of Vilnius, who have succeeded in speeding up, in catching up with the rest of Europe, and even exceeding in EU averages in GDP per capita. But most of the regions are simply trying to catch up and to support this process, and as well as to make the regions now resilient to the crisis that they face every other almost year. We advocate for integrating emerging priorities in new program, in existing programs, such as security, preparedness, and remain also eligible for targeted infrastructure, thinking also of dual-use infrastructure, and consider more open up the programs for business support. And here I stop. Thank you for attention. I'm open for questions at the dedicated time.
Sandra, many thanks. Questions will be coming definitely to you and also other panelists, because there are things that unite us all about the needs and the challenges that you just described. But the partners of the project, ESPON Channable study, might also have some individual needs, individual necessities that will be important for the development of your territories. Kirsi, South Karelia, I think it's important also to share among us that one of your important missions is to work on the positive narrative of development in the region. And we know that often border regions are associated with some peripheralities, some wasted or lost opportunities. So in the light of the current developments, your work is even more difficult, I would say. Could you let us know your perspective on development, the results of the Channable study, and also your own work with the perception of South Karelia region? Please.
Thank you, Victor. I wanted to show you a couple of headlines that seem quite dramatic, but as you can see, we've had some high level of interest from the international media in our region. But once you take a look at those headlines, you can see that the narrative isn't that positive. But that was the situation then. And we've had very high-level visits in our region in South Karelia, which we are very happy for. And yes, a lot of attention. And as you can see, one question is, what is the mood in Finland? And do you know what all the journalists ask? They ask us, are you afraid to live here on the borderline? We have 200 kilometers of border on the with Russian Federation. Our people answer that, no, we are not afraid, but we still have concerns, not just regarding security, but also about our region's future. If we can still live here, if we have work. And that's why we need to change the narrative based on our strengths. I think it was quite easy to agree with the key findings and recommendations of the Channable project. It means, in practice, promoting investments, new international partnerships, like Sandra just mentioned, that we need new partnerships. And it takes time to build those. people-to-people projects. So all our regions, we have the similar challenges and we should be solving them together. If I think about the recommendations for South Karelia, for example, one key finding and recommendation was to encourage young people, young migrants to stay in our region. This is very crucial because we have a very good reputation, our science university, LUT, and then our lab, University of Applied Sciences. And their strategy is to grow by attracting more international students. And our aim is, of course, to be able to so that they can feel that they are welcome in our region and they can find jobs and offer their know-how for us. And then one recommendation was to foster innovation. I think that this is very crucial because I think that the new rise of our region comes from our companies. It comes from entrepreneurships and of the interest towards entrepreneurship and of the interest to develop one's own company. But with this, I see a clear connection with our university. So this link with the university is very special. And of course, we need to prioritize investments in research and development. I think that South Karelia is a region of many potentials. For example, in terms of tourism, tourism of Finland started in Imatra in Water Rapids, and we see it as the future as well. Forest industry is in our DNA. And we intend to keep it that way in the future in terms of bioeconomy and in terms of investments. Cohesion policy is needed in the renewal process of our regional economy very much. We think that the gatekeeper role is special and it should be recognized in the MFF and in the future programs. So we support the Chanebo recommendation of a dedicated funding solution and also some funding criteria based on eastern border circumstances, for example, the length of the border. I think that we should discuss about comprehensive security, not just in terms of defense and border security, but also from the point of view of cultural well-being, from the point of view of everyday life of people living on the borderline. And at the end, I would like to thank the Chanebo team for taking the challenge, as Victor, you mentioned. And I want to send special greetings for Piera, Virpi and Matti if you are following this broadcast. I think that you, Chanebo team, have provided us a fact-based and solution-oriented voice for us. Thank you.
Kirsi, many thanks indeed. I sense in your intervention that you are interested to go on, so that this is not the end of that journey, but the support that you have received through the qualified eminent researchers and also us as the ESPON EGTC could profit for you in the future in your further endeavors. Anna, Latgale, when you have heard Kirsi's quite important intervention regarding resilience, business opportunities, research and development, tourism, preparedness, is there something that you would disagree, or is there something that you would add to this list? What is important from the perspective of your region?
Hello to everyone. Yes, when I was listening to previous presentation and actually during all the previous sessions, I understood how similar we are actually. But we have this one common problem, the border, and also location, remote location, and all problems connected to this. But at the same time, all regions face this problem in their own way. And we see that solutions also probably cannot be equal to everybody, all the regions. And actually, we appreciate a lot that we were invited to participate in this project. This is one of Chernihiv regions. And not because of the professional research we've got, but also because we were brought together. That was not done before. And we were mixed in the working groups, and we had got to know each other. And this is, I think, a huge step to the new dimension to cooperation. The cooperation was not before, from the north to south, instead of the previous East-West cooperation. And Latvia faced quite unfavorable conditions preliminary, and you can just see the GDP data to compare to other Latvian regions and to the European average region. We also have unfavorable climate conditions. For example, the vegetation period is shorter, up to 24 days, to compare to other parts of Latvia. It's almost 1 month, and also less sunny days. So after the beginning of the war in Ukraine, also the usual supply chains were interrupted, and the usual market known, like a convenient market, was also closed. So the enterprises should find some kind of another way, and this cooperation will be very needed. During our working sessions, we also found out that the security and economical factors are very close to each other, and there is no economical development if no security, and if we don't have people socially, economically active in these border areas that are owning the properties, that consuming cultural, medical, educational, local services, creating working places, and wanting and ready to protect all this environment, it's very difficult to maintain the security. And as last week, the Mr. Fito said last week that the border with Russia and Belarus is not just regional border, national border. This is the border of European Union and the NATO border. These territories cannot be weak. During our working session, we were provoked and challenged by the project group, and they made us imagine situations we don't want to face, and we understood that usual solutions may be not enough anymore in these geopolitical conditions. We have to do something extra, and this can be done with the help of the funds, especially tailored for the border areas, and maybe the border area can be seen as one, like Sandra said, transnational body with its own funding. But the funding should be fast and flexible, as we see how actually different we are, and it should have less bureaucracy and much simplified procedures. Our biggest challenge is the population and the aging population, and usually, very often, their experience and their qualifications don't answer the demands of the modern enterprises. So, although during last planning periods, a lot of steps were done with the contribution of the European funds to raise the quality of the vocational education. So, I think this also should be continued with the higher education and research and development and vocational education. Our biggest challenge now is to enhance, as well as our partners, to enhance the attractiveness of our region to young, new, existing specialists with the families. And it's not just the social economic factor. This connected directly to our ability, to our defensive abilities. And we also need the specialists that can produce not only normal goods, but also dual-use goods. And, but we understand that we compete with other regions about these specialists. So I think we need to continue these Interact type programs, maybe instead of previous ones, with the new territories, with the structural components, with the cooperation components, and also including enterprise as a target group without usual state aid regulations. Thank you.
Anna, many thanks. Usual solutions, not enough anymore. And I think this is very important to take with us. And I would like now to turn to Melis. I think I've heard from Anna about attracting young people, that these regions, these border regions, in an effort to reverse the trajectory and, as I said, reinvent themselves, need also to entice young, educated, skilled people, not only to stay, but also to come and work in the area. From your perspective, you are located also, as some people might say, in the corner of Europe. But is it also your perception that you see every day that people that you talk to, that you relate to, are of the very same opinion? And how to change it if this is the case?
Thank you for the opportunity, of course, to speak. And I agree with all previous speakers about the challenges we're facing. And something reminds me Michael Jackson song that we are not alone, or it's something just we all face very similar issues. And it was very nice to see when our meetings and all this through this process, just how similar challenge we're facing. Yes, Ida-Viru is located in northeast Estonian eastern border with Russia, and historically has functioned as a gateway through cultural exchange, trade, and cross-border cooperation. But today, due to sanctions and the war in Ukraine, border closures, region has become a gatekeeper, and bearing the new geopolitical, economic, and social burdens. The external border is not just a line on the map. It's lived by the people whose access, safety, and livelihoods has been disrupted. Ida-Viru faces a triple demographic challenge at the moment: just population declining, aging, and youth out-migration. The closure of border cooperation has deepened its isolation, and we really need to attract young talent to create new jobs and transform and diversify our economy. Just since 2022, Ida-Viru has become increasingly disconnected. East-west logistics and mobility corridors have been severely disrupted, and we're in a dead-end situation at the moment, a little bit. And to restore the vitality, was rethink the connectivity, not just physical, but also digital and economic. North-south corridor linking Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, border regions has become a lifeline for peripheral regions can become a lifeline for peripheral regions like Ida-Viru. The economy in Ida-Viru remains vulnerable. Without EU special support, there is a risk that people simply leave, and with them the capacity to defend, develop, and transform the region. Border regions are not just vulnerable, they're also strategically valuable. And for the closing, I would like to say that we already have a good relationship thanks to the Janebo research just that we developed during this process. And I see that there is a real a readiness for our neighbors for the cross-border cooperation and targeted investments, local investments. And Ida-Viru County has a solid experience in stakeholder engagement. We have previously involved in development organizations, entrepreneurs, and the civil society to define priorities and drive meaningful change through Just Transition Fund we're implementing at the moment. Together we are working to improve quality of life and foster economic prosperity in our border communities for safer and more cohesive Europe. Thank you.
Many thanks. I'm really glad to see that we are not diverging in our perspectives, that even though our territories have different distinct characteristics of development, that you also tried and very well presented in your interventions. We have many things that keep us together. And hopefully this is not only about the cooperation spirit and the commitment you've shown through your work in the Channebo project, but also the understanding that there are the priorities that these regions are sharing among themselves. I'm particularly intrigued about how would you, in your argumentation for dedicated funding, defend the thesis about gatekeeper role. Of course, we know that many regions face a lot of difficulties. So unemployment, depopulation, aging, economic downturn. But perhaps border regions have something unique about themselves that would very much advocate for being labeled as gatekeepers. Kirsi. You have already some very good solutions, I believe. Please.
Thank you, Victor. I think if you look at the map, it's very easy to understand why these regions are different and why the gatekeeper role to NATO, to EU and Schengen is so clear that all you need to do is take the map and look at it, and you see the answer to this question. We see ourselves as living the democratic values of Europe every day, and we want to protect these values in the future as well. And at the border, we are used to living different kind of changes, and we will get through this as well. And we have solutions that we are willing to contribute for Europe, for companies. But at this point, we just need a little bit of help on the local and national, on the EU level as well.
Thank you. Melis, please.
What we see is our local good people are best border guards. It's not possible to install like one border guard for every kilometer, or I don't know how often you want them, but their eyes and the ears and for the whole region, and the best first defense, I believe. And that's why providing the jobs and the economic opportunities in the border regions are highly important.
Yeah, I agree with the previous speakers. That's absolutely right. And we understand in the emergent situation that we will be the first responders. And these regions have to be motivated and have to be actually wealthy, that people want to protect it. And now we see that actually these regions have suffered more than others out of the war in Ukraine, and the tax incomes just decreased. And now even municipalities cannot afford to pre-finance and co-finance the initiatives. And this should be tackled separately and actually with the extra effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm also looking into the Slido questions we've been receiving, and I do believe there is a question that is well sort of adhering to our discussion at the moment, which is about the collaboration. All of you mentioned this is the first time you've ever met, and the first time you've ever talked to in this partnership of Channebo, and you see potential for collaboration. But would you say this is the potential which is confined just to your territories, or do you see you can also collaborate with other EU regions to perhaps absorb some practices, some good knowledge, and also you may, in the other direction, provide them with some know-how, because you are, as you say, the gatekeepers, not just gateways. So any declaration of collaboration already that we might see among you? Kirsi.
Thank you, Victor. I think this is all about cooperation, and I think it works best when you have shared problems, the shared needs. So it doesn't really matter if the region is like the neighbor region, the next country to your own country, but if you have the same kind of needs, then you can find very naturally the cooperation. And in South Karelia, we have already changed our strategy naturally, that we want to internationalize our own regional councils' actions, but also to promote internationalization for our universities, for our municipalities, and for our third sector organizations as well. I was listening to Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen's speech, and she said that we should listen to regions more. And I think this is a very good principle when you're talking about regional development, the place-based thinking and knowing one's own needs in the region, and then searching for the correct partners to solve these problems together.
Thank you. Sandra.
So I'd like to step in and respond and a bit reflect on what you said, Victor, what you asked, and also to a few of the questions here regarding of the territory next to the EU external border with Russia and Belarus, and possible cooperation. So we started this project. We responded to the tender opportunity with 4 stakeholders asking for this support, for evidence collection and proposals, for policy recommendations, but immediately working on a proposal which was afterwards also successful, and thanks for choosing us. The idea was that most likely also the other regions at the external border would experience the same problems and might be looking for solutions. So first of all, we already offered that we can zoom into our stakeholder regions very deeply in their troubles, but we can also have a broader overview on a few indicators for all regions. We decided that we look into 27 altogether, not 3-level regions, starting from Finnmark in Norway and down to Polish regions. I think some 3 regions, both with Russia and Belarus as well. So and yes, and we just find that the problems are similar, and we also we're trying to see ways how to reach out to the regions. And luckily, there was a parallel, and there's still a parallel initiative by Interreg Europe called Regio Resilience, which is an initiative by a Polish Warmskie Mazurskie region, that actually gathered, that invited all these regions along the border, at least to 2-3 events. And that was an excellent opportunity also for us to not only deal with our regions, but also hear what other regions are saying. And in fact, yes, this is, all of them are same, but different, as we say. They are very much same in wishing to cooperate. They see that one potential solution and one potential strength of them is to be able to have this platform to talk to each other, not only about direct investments, but just to learn how their peers are solving one or another problem. And here I have a very practical thing that I bring with me, and this is from my colleague here, Melis, that he was, for example, explaining how in Idaviru they strengthen the civil preparedness, how they strengthen, let's say, the police, the border guard supports, with what just Melis recently said, that people themselves volunteer. They understand that it's their responsibility. And I think it is very good, for example, to hear this in Latgale, to hear it also maybe in Lithuania. And then people on the ground there can think, oh yeah, but we can also do this. And therefore, one of our proposals, in fact, is to think about also some kind of common media platform, a platform for exchange of the ideas. Because what happens is, for example, when I watch Prime TV news in Latvia, which is my home country, I can see a reportage from Vatican of 30 minutes waiting for the new Pope to be elected, which is fine. But I'd like to hear actually more about what is going on in Idaviruma, how they are getting prepared. For example, not only physically infrastructure, but also mentally. And I think we would learn more and we would become stronger if we have more also options to speak among us.
Thank you very much. I would like to roll out a certain scenario that the border regions come together and postulate as someone of, you said, fast and flexible funding mechanism, FFF, fast and flexible funding. Very often the response is yes, but please demonstrate by means of indicators that this help is really needed. And so far, we've been used to seeing hard demographic and economic indicators behind. Here we also talk about some less palpable elements related to the people's perception, how people perceive risks, emergencies, to what extent they are prepared, they are committed, how in your specific regions, territories, when you talk to the people, when you listen to the people, what's their perception of the situation? There is one question also, if you've seen that they started moving, or maybe they are not moving, but they are preparing for what might come. So, any of you would like to relate to that? Yeah, Anna, please.
I think colleagues will continue. I think the usual indicators cannot be applied anymore because the situation is absolutely not usual. It's already got urgent, actually, and absolutely new methods should be elaborated and applied. As I said, we are not just the border of our own region, and we also have border with Belarus and Russia, and so it's absolutely different kind of the neighbors we have to face, but both dangerous. And our region faced depopulation. Like Sandra, I saw in the 38%, I think, of the population we lost during the last 20 years. And I think the patriots stayed. And we see that some people even come back, not so many, but we don't have something to offer them. We don't have housing to offer them. We don't have industrial plots available. So this is maybe we should look at. But we are not leaving, but we are preparing. But you never can, I think, be prepared to what Ukraine faced. And so, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Sandra?
Yes, If I may also react with some already towards concluding notes, I would like to say the following. So, and also reflecting to a few of the questions, especially on what investment priorities should there be. Well, first of all, I completely agree to what Anna says about that business as usual, conventional methods, conventional supports do not quite work, and there is not only let's say a wish list, a Christmas present list for European Commission, but there are also some national homeworks most likely, and here one let's say unconventional in EU probably, but in Norway we see in Norway north regions they also introduce fiscal incentives on income taxes just to make people live there, because they understand that if people don't live in these territories, then these territories are just very easy grab for imperialistic neighbors. So I think this mindset should be changed also, let's say, at least in my home country. And another unconventional thing and another, let's say, investment priority is more targeted business support. Because, well, I personally have studied and analyzed the previous programming periods and also this programming periods. The businesses from underperforming regions like Latgale very rarely get when they have to get to the grants, to the loans, when they have to compete with bigger companies, with more stronger companies from central regions, from capital regions. And I think this is absolutely necessary, because if there is no business, if there is no income, well, there is nothing for people to do in the regions. And just to conclude on what you said, I like this proposal of FFF, fast, flexible funding. Yesterday we had a broader discussion in our team at Spatial Foresight and our biannual meeting, and we were a bit also kind of trying to, let's say, trying to play a role play about what the future cohesion would look like. And we agreed that maybe cohesion is already something that, well, at some stage, to some extent, it could be considered as maybe achieved. For example, in Latvia, in general, it has the average GDP has raised considerably, but that doesn't reflect so much in the regions. So what we could probably also think of maybe rebranding it to the resilience. So we basically need resilience. Well, we saw the multiple crises, COVID, war. I hope not so many ahead, but if the regions will be more resilient and prepared, I think that could be a very good aim. Thank you.
I can't resist but posing a question to Melis as well regarding the resilience of young people and perhaps elderly people. Do you see a particular difference in the attitudes, in the perceptions of the situation between the generations? Is there any generational gap in understanding the need to brace, to prepare, and to be resilient?
Something we see, yes, in our region, that the population aging, and that there is also opportunities in the silver economy or for the elderly care, and some investments have been made in this sector also. But for the youngsters, you really need to provide opportunities through education, innovation, and to the new, like a future economies, future-proof economies. We have some initiatives in our region already. There is a coding school. It's not formal education, but informal. And with 2 years, you can become like a good coding specialist. And these skills are highly valuable and important for the region. But it's how to keep them, how to attract them. Just we have a plan. Just if we had funds or monies, just we would like to organize some sort of future leaders, like a educational program, just to teach new young leaders, and maybe 50 or 100 of them, and with a hope that 10% of them will stay in the region and help to write project and to bring them to life. And at the moment there are some opportunities, and we're working with this, and it's something. And also we like to call our region as a region for the optimists, because all pessimists have left already, and it's something. It's not for the weak.
To stay a bit optimistic, also, at least in my humble view, resilient societies and communities are those that are also resilient to disinformation and fake news. How you see this challenge emerging in your border regions? I do believe that this is a challenge for the people living there. Kirsi.
Thank you. A study was conducted under the previous EU elections that Finland is quite well vaccinated against different kind of propaganda, and people have a relatively good level of media literacy, but we cannot trust this to continue for forever. But this is probably a good situation at the moment in South Karelia because Finland has been preparing since the 40s. So we have long traditions of preparing, and we practice, and people are very active, and this is like a good situation at the moment. But we also have a Russian-speaking minority in our region, and we want to maintain the good relations. We don't want any problems there escalating, so this is something that we need to pay focus on in the future. But I just wanted to come back to the fast, flexible funding, that I think that we need funding that will help us in our own region's needs, that we need tools that are flexible. For example, concrete actions, concrete infrastructure projects. Those are visible to people, and those make an impact. So this was just to comment the funding thing, that we also need concrete actions and concrete infrastructure projects.
Anna, please.
I wanted to add to previous speakers that this fund should be also outside the usual envelope, funding envelope of the nations.
Very important. Anyone to add on that, Sandra?
So I'll first add to media literacy and disinformation. So one of our thematic proposals and recommendations exactly concerns projects and introducing media literacy in also school curricula, and also in adult education. And for example, we learn in Finland this is already done. So it would be good, I'm just thinking in terms of projects, to take over this experience, as well as experience of civil preparedness that is so obvious in Finland, and take it over. So I'm not sure whether, because there is a black screen, it's finished. Okay, because I wanted also to respond to one of the questions about whether we already see some figures of businesses and money lost. So as said, some people are leaving, we cannot definitely say. Well, actually, it was very difficult to disentangle the overall downward trend from what the war has kind of reinforced. Even though that we see in certain sectors like tourism, like transport, definitely, like Sillamäe port, losing cargo turnover volumes, that is definitely war situation. But in the rest, that comes with a bit of a later reaction. And like in transport, in Latgal, Daugavpils is a big railway junction, and of course, if railway stops, railway cargo trains stop or reduce, they have to leave the people off of their jobs, etc. So this comes on stage very gradually, while tourism is immediately when you cross the borders. But I'd like to invite everyone just to, whenever they will be available on ESPON site, to get acquainted with the results of this research, because we have produced some 13 deliverables apart from mandatory reports, because I counted from 500 pages, and I think it's quite a lot, but all of them try to give also a snapshot, a summary snapshot, and if there are more questions, please reach out to us, and we will be happy to respond to them.
Many thanks. I do believe we have to wrap up this session. And indeed, as you said, Sandra, well, there are many deliverables produced by your research team, and not all of them are extremely sophisticated in terms of language. So we have all for everyone, for policymakers, for businesses, for journalists, for students, and for researchers. So the results will be soon available on our website, and my plea to the audience is to peruse them upon your convenience, because we do hope that this is not the end of our ESPON research and evidence regarding the situation of border regions. I would like to thank you very much, dear panelists, for very brightful, very colorful discussion, and we'll continue after a short technical break with the next section that will take up results of this one and then discuss the matters of how to position results of the Chernobyl study in the array of other initiatives at different levels, also in particular at the European level. So many thanks indeed. Thank you, and see you very soon in the next session.